What's up guys, Kaisen here and welcome back to a Path of Exile tutorial. As you can see, we're back in our hideout and the first thing we're going to do is look at some items again. The first one is a dagger and there's attack speed on it, which usually is really great. But the one thing that you always have to look for first when you see a weapon is some sort of damage. And the only damage that is on here is a small cold damage roll, which is obviously not enough, so this is trash. There's a second weapon here with fire and lightning, which usually is a good start, but both of the rolls are really low, so we can't really do anything with this one either. And then we have a chainmail here, which in terms of sockets is actually really good, but it misses out completely on any kind of resistance, so that's why it's bad. There's life on it, which is good. Strength might be nice. Mana is actually a good roll, but without any kind of resistance it's not worthwhile keeping it. So this is going to go into the vendor as well. What I will do next is I will do dailies again. To make the video shorter, and you've seen most of it already, I'm just gonna cut in again if there's something new that you guys haven't seen at all. Okay, so I did Katarina's daily. Nothing special about it, same as usual. I just wanted to have a look at the new items and gems that are offered here. I think we already talked about Purity of Lightning. It just increases the resistance. I don't think I mentioned the other two. So Cold Snap is a cold-based spell. I'm not 100% sure whether it is still the same as it was before, because when you read through it, it says that ice crystals come out of the ground and they basically damage enemies. And there's a chance that they get chilled and there's a chance to freeze the enemies. And the chance is actually quite high for a skill. But then the downside to Cold Snap is the high cooldown, which is 4 seconds. That's really, really high for a skill. Now, if I remember correctly, the last part of the description, the cooldown can be bypassed by expending a power charge, didn't used to be in the description. I might be mistaken on this, but I remember back in the day I was trying to make Cold Snap work somehow. I was thinking about how I could build something around it, and I couldn't really come up with something just because the cooldown was so annoying. So the only thing that you could have done was use multiple Cold Snaps. So you can use one here, and then while the cooldown ticks down you can use another one. But it was not ideal. So maybe they added that recently, and I think it's really good, because by expending a power charge you don't have to worry about the 4 seconds, and it really works well with the skill as well. I don't think we have talked about charges that much, but we've seen endurance charges before where you yourself or monsters get more durable, so it increases your resistances and it reduces the amount of damage that you take from physical attacks. We had frenzy charges before where especially monsters will get frenzy charges over time, and that means they have faster attack speed and faster cast speed. And power charges are centered around critical strike chance. So the more power charges you have, the higher your critical strike chance is, which works well with Cold Snap, because if you critically strike with this skill, then you have a 100% chance to freeze, which is great. So I think with this, this skill might be really feasible, and you could potentially perma-freeze entire groups of monsters. So it's really cool, and I'm actually seeing this. I'm thinking about maybe trying out a Cold Snap build at some point. Anyway, Discharge is the second one, which I don't know. Did we talk about this? So Discharge is basically an elemental attack, so it deals lightning, fire, and cold damage, and you can see it as some sort of explosion where your character charges up, and then the character explodes, or the energy that is charged up is released, is discharged, and that deals damage to surrounding monsters. So this is AoE, and it's a circular AoE like Ice Nova that we've seen before. And you can also see that it relies on all three of the charges that we were just talking about. So if you collect power charges, it deals lightning. If you collect endurance charges, fire, and frenzy charges, cold damage. So with this, you obviously want to get as many charges as possible, and all three of them, which makes it a bit tricky to make a build around it that is most efficient. But it's a really powerful skill if you can make the build work. Okay, so I'm gonna go for the Elrion daily next, and you guys, you've seen it, so I'll just do it and show you the new stuff afterwards. I finished my daily on Elrion, and he is level 4 now, as you guys can see. And that introduces a new type of item on his vendor screen. More specifically, it's jewelry. So you can either have rings or amulets. I would still not recommend to you guys to buy any unidentified off of him, because if you identify it, it might be really shitty, and it's not worthwhile spending a chance in an alteration to do that. For the identified ones, there's an Elrion specific mod that they have on them, and that is a certain amount of mana cost reduction. So in this case, it's -7 to mana cost of skills. The range is, I don't know what the lowest is, but the highest is 8 from what I've seen so far. So you want to aim, if you buy one of them, you want to aim for ideally 8, maybe 7. I personally wouldn't go any lower than that. And as I said, it can be on amulets and rings. I prefer the rings, mainly because they're cheaper. So here you can see it's 1 orb of chance for the amulet. On rings, it's mostly only 1 alteration, which is half the price. And what it does is, if you look at my Spectral Throw right now, it's 11 mana cost. If I put on the amulet with the -7, that means I only have to pay 4 mana to use my skill. And this can be really, really good if you, for example, if you want to use a skill that has a very high mana cost innate, or most of the time it's used for links. So I already showed you guys that there's mana multipliers on support gems. On this one it's 120%, on this one it's 140%. So the more support gems you link to your main spell or attack, the higher the mana cost gets, and it's somewhat exponentially. So it can get really out of hand soon, and it's really hard early on to support a 5 link or even a 6 link if you have it. And these rings or amulets make it way more feasible to actually have a 5 or 6 link early on in the game. And since an additional support gem usually means more damage, or some sort of benefit that it brings to you, it usually increases your clear speed, and that increases your the speed of your leveling quite a bit. So it's really, really beneficial. Again, I would look out for rings, ideally -8 to mana, and if I see one, I usually buy it. Okay, in terms of gems, we talked about weapon elemental damage, and you can see that this one has quality. I told you guys that I'm looking for quality on gems, but more specifically, I'm looking for 10 plus quality. The minimum is plus 5% quality, and 7 quality, it's not that unique or not that valuable. And I don't think that I would get more than 1 chaos for a plus 7 quality weapon alley, which means I'm not making any profit by buying this off the vendor, so I'm not gonna do it. This skill, Static Strike, is for melee characters, and you're hitting the enemy and you create static energy, which will, after a slight delay, which I think here is 0.75 seconds to start with, there will be small explosions around the character. Or it's one explosion actually. I was thinking about another skill that also came out recently. So this is a very recent skill, a very new skill, and it is used by a lot of people right now in this league, and it seems to be very powerful, so it might be nerfed in the future, I don't know, but right now it's a really good skill if you want to go melee. Dominating Blow is a melee skill as well. It works a bit different. If you kill a monster, it basically revives that monster as your minion. So you can, by killing monsters fast with this skill, you can get a large army of minions and just run around with your army, which looks really, really fun. So you're some sort of melee slash summoner hybrid. It's interesting. And then you have a duration on there, so after a while, obviously, those creatures that you summon by killing monsters will just poof, just, you know, turn into thin air. Alright, so that's it for the dailies. We will go on into Act 3, and we made it to the Sarn encampment. That was the end of last episode. And now we're going for the first mission here to find Clarissa and Tolman. One thing that I quickly wanted to add is that on this amulet, and also on the rings if you find them, you can see that it only has the -X2 mana cost on it. So it only has one stat. And there's some discussion about whether you should use an augment on it or not. The bonus is that you obviously get another stat on it. If I'm not mistaken, I think the mana cost is a prefix, so you might be able to get a resistance roll on your amulet or ring, which would be really good. The downside on using an augment on an item like this is that it increases the required level of the item. So in this case, right now it is 5, so I could use it really early on and could rush my character early on, because basically my skills would not cost any mana. If I use an augment on it, then the required level might jump up to 20 or even higher depending on the item level. So it always depends on when you want to start using them. And you know, if you can wait until 20 or even 30, then you should definitely use the augment. To get to the next area from the town square, you have to go up the stairs and go here. So this is basically the same way that we came into town. And all the way up here, you can see the entrance to the slums. Okay, you just saw something explode. Those are the first monsters in here that are somewhat new. Carrion minion, and it explodes, so they will attack you for a while. You know, we've seen this this type of monster, the design, before, but they didn't explode. So these ones can be quite dangerous if you have a low fire, because they will deal some damage if they explode. We have the, you know, we've seen these ones, and those guys will just spawn more and more of the exploders. So you want to get, they're kind of like necros in a sense, but instead of respawning, they just spawn more and more. So you want to get rid of them as soon as possible. Okay, let's level this. And there has to be another one over here. Yep, because I saw some more of those little thingies coming. What you want to do in this area is you want to keep in these lower, well, how to call it, like lower spaces, because you have the, you know, the platforms higher up, and you have this like up here. That's what I call the higher up platforms. And then you have the areas that are down or lower than that, and you should basically stay within them and just search for Clarissa in here. Clarissa is always in this lower area, and I'll show you when I find her. Really quick, I found another type of monster in here, the Spine Serpents. I think we've seen them before. Dealing chaos damage, shooting at you. Nothing special apart from that, but they can deal some damage. You can see that, you know, it hurts a bit. If you follow the lower area, at some point you will get to a place where guards will start attacking you, and there's one special guard here, guard captain. Armored, uses cleave and double strike. We've seen all of this before, so nothing special. He is, you know, he has a bit of health, and he hits somewhat hard, but it's really nothing special. So you just kill him, and once you did, you can see somebody on the ground here. Defeat the guards and rescue Clarissa. So she's taken hostage here, basically. And once you kill all of the guards, she can get rid of her whatever it was, and stands up, and you can talk to her. And at this point, she tells you where Tolman is, so that's the second part of the quest. And more importantly, she goes back to town, and she is the second vendor. So if you want to check the vendors, you can do so now for jewelry and wands and flasks. So yeah. Now to find the crematorium, it makes sense. It basically always makes sense in a zone to keep on one side and to kind of hug one wall. So what I'm usually doing is I hug the right hand wall in here, and that usually makes it really easy to find the entrance to the crematorium. I'll show you guys when I get close to it. At some point you'll get into an area with these little bridges that are, you know, somewhat fallen down and destroyed already, and there's some connections between them. Just make sure that you don't miss out on any of the directions or any of the ways that lead off of them, because you want to get into this area. This is the way to get to the next zone, but if you miss out on one, then you might actually clear the whole level without knowing it, because you're still looking for the next area. So just make sure that, you know, you hug one wall. It doesn't really matter which one, but yeah, just be thorough here. We've found the entrance to the crematorium, and once you go in, you will see that there's a waypoint right at the start here. That's always the case. So grab the waypoint, go back to town if you have to sell something. You can already hear some monsters in the distance. In here, it's very important to have a decent fire resist. Not quite sure what mine is right now. It's 25, that's not really decent, so try to have 40 plus, I guess. And at the end of the zone, you will need lightning resist as well. So either make sure that you have both of them when you start out, or if you get towards the end of it, and I'll show you what you have to look out for, you can just open a portal and get another ring for lightning resist. Because in the last bit, you don't need fire resist anymore, you only need lightning. I went back to town to check the vendors, and on one of them I found something that is interesting and I would say is an upgrade to what we have, which is this one. It's a wolf pelt, and I was already I was talking before about the scare mask being really bad at this point in the game, and the only reason that I kept it was the green link. I think it's overdue that we upgrade, and you can see that we're going from 11 evasion to 130. We will lose a tiny bit of energy shield and life, but we will, on this one there's a really high life roll, so that will be really good for us. Ideally, I would have liked to have a resistance on it, but rarity is okay because that increases the chance that we will find good items from now on. So I'll take it. 1 orb of alteration, which I think it's a fair price, so we're just gonna buy this. And now we just have to switch some stuff around because I cannot use the green obviously anymore with double strike. Just look at the life. So right now we have 855 and we gain 52 life. So a bit more than the 48 here, based on the multipliers that we already have. And we look really cool now. If you compare this to this, hell yeah. Okay, so now the only change that we have to make is we put double strike in here, and we don't need anger in there, and we'll just take a weapon. What is this? Level 6. This is level 5. Yeah, so we take the highest weapon elemental damage and put it in here, and I already checked, it's roughly 30 DPS that we lose, but we gain quite a bit of defenses, so I think it's worthwhile doing it. We can put anger in here, and this is why I have all these different types of weapons in here, because now I can go for, I actually don't really have the right one in here. That's too bad. Ideally, a red green would be great. I'll see if I can find one. Yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that I found something on the vendor. Back in the crematorium, we have Cinder Elementals. Oh, this is actually the zone boss already. Cinder Elementals are the same as the rocks that we've seen before. The only difference is that they are already standing up. So let's just get rid of these two. And Hatebeat is the zone boss, and he rolls over enemies, and there's a burning ground where he rolls over. And he has Firestorm, skill that we already talked about. So you... Oh, and he actually... Okay, that's somewhat new, I guess. He also has a melee attack that he's using. If you get to melee, he's using Molten Strike right here. And Molten Strike is just some balls, basically. He's melee attacking, and there's some lava balls that deal damage to you. If you have a relatively high fire resist, he's a piece of cake, so you can easily kill him. Oh, and I actually get a Jade Flask here. That's a really good drop, especially because we will probably be mainly evasion based on this character. So a Jade Flask is a type of flask that is focused on evasion rating. And you can see that it lasts 5 seconds, and for the 5 seconds you will get an increase to your evasion rating. The base amount is 3,000, and just to have a look at what we have right now, we have roughly 650. So 3,000 is a huge amount. I can actually... Let's see, let's go back to town. I want to just show you what difference it makes, how much of a difference it makes. I have to go back to town just because if I switch this one in, It is full if I'm in town. It would be empty if I switch it in the crematorium itself. So now that we have it, if we look at our defenses, and right now we have 43% chance to evade, which is already very high. So the effect that I'm going to show you is not as intense as if you know, when you have a really low evasion rating. If you have like 5% chance to evade, then the increase will be much more significant. But even now, if I press 2, we jump from 43% evasion to 83%, which is insane. So you basically evade almost anything that comes your way for 5 seconds. So a Jade Flask is really, really good. It consumes 40 out of 60 charges right now, so you can only use it once, which means you have to time it correctly. Otherwise, you know, you might still get a really large hit if the flask runs out. If you get a flask like this, you should definitely roll it. What I usually do, I wait on rolling it simply because we were talking about items or currency items that improve quality, and the Glassblower's Bauble improves the quality of a flask. And I was telling you guys that if it's a white one, then you get 5% improvement. On a blue one, it's 2. So what I usually do is I have my jet flask, and then we can actually use this right now. I use my baubles on it before I make it magic. So we can just use both on it right now. We have 10%. So I wait until I have 4 baubles to get to 20%, which is the maximum. And then I use my transmutation on it. And if I don't like the stats that I get on it, I will use alterations to change it. I'll show you when we get 2 more, and then we'll probably try to roll this flask. Until then, I'm just gonna go back to the crematorium. I found the corrupted area in here. Area has patches of shocking ground. We talked about this before when we were actually in the last corrupted area, because the boss in the area had an attack that left a shocking ground. And I think we've seen shocking patches or patches of shocking ground before. So basically what it means, try not to stand in them, because you will take 50% increased damage from anything that hits you. So just try to avoid them. The second one, the suffix basically, is increased lightning resistance for monsters. And that means that it's not bad for us because we deal only physical damage right now. I don't think we have any lightning damage on here. Nope. But if you use an attack or a spell that is based on lightning, you will have a harder time killing anything in this area. And then you always have, you know, a percentage more items in here. I already checked the boss of the area, and it is a boss that uses Firestorm. We'll see him shortly. Alright, so I made it to the end of the area, which you can always see if you see, you know, this piece here with the Vol letter. So, okay, this guy is here, and we have some arsonists. Whoa, this is actually dealing a lot of damage. Alright, so this is a firestorm that follows you. That's basically the description of the boss. And he is an incinerator. Whoa, okay, this is a bit more dangerous than I initially thought. So he will use his firestorm, and he also throws fire bombs, which explode after, you know, a certain amount of time. Just trying to get as much damage in as possible as quickly. Okay, here we go. We got him down. But if you stand still and you're in his firestorm, it will deal a lot of damage to you. So Try to keep moving around. Obviously this was even more intense because I had the shocking ground as well. So if he hit me at the wrong time, then I would take 50% increased damage. But we made it, and we have a Vol Vessel again. So let's look at this. Vol Righteous Fire. Okay. We've talked about Righteous Fire already, and I said that it is a gem that you usually use at higher levels in the game. Vol Righteous Fire, let me see, I haven't really used this. A Fury Blast removes your energy shield and all but one life, exploding outwards to deal fire damage to nearby enemies based on the life and energy shield lost. Wow, okay. That's pretty intense. I would even say this looks suicidal. Because you will, as an energy shield based character, you will lose all your energy shield, and you usually only have one life, so if anything hits you, you're dead. And as a life-based character, it's the same, because you're at one life. So, wow. Right now, I have no idea in what kind of build this could be used. The only thing that I could see is if your character is based on life leech and direct leech. If you deal enough damage and you right away leech all your life back, then this might be interesting. So you could wipe out an entire group of monsters, and by dealing, you know, this high damage to them, you would have your life back right away because you leech all of it. That's the only thing that I can think about right now. Pretty interesting. Alright, so this was the corrupted area. Not much more to say about it. All of the monsters in here were fire based, so you just had to make sure that your fire resist was high enough. We also have some Flame Guardians in here, and the usual Necro, and this one casts Flammability, so it will decrease your fire resist by 40%, so be careful. I think I heard something. Yep, here we go. A Tormented Thug. Let's see if we can kill it this way. Yay! Alright, sweet. It's time for loot.
My mana is gone.
Do you get? No, you don't get new loot from it. Okay, well, I should use my main attack. Here we go. Okay, so we found the end of the area, and you will always recognize it because there's this tarp over, you know, a ton of dead bodies right here. And once you see that, you know this is the end of the area, and that's where you have to change from fire resist to ideally really high lightning resist, because you only need lightning here, and you'll see why in a second.
I tell you to come to Sun, and here you are. Put the stray puppy down, boys.
So we have Piety here again, and she kind of gives this little speech, and afterwards all of her guards will attack you, and she will attack you as well. And you can see that all of her attacks are lightning based. You have this somewhat, it's similar to Firestorm, but lightning, like a lightning storm that comes down, and it can shock you as well. It's not doing it right now, but it can. She uses Spark. We've seen that on a Shrine before. And she uses this ball, this one, and that's Ball Lightning. And that can shock you as well and deals damage to you as it rolls, you know, as it rolls by, basically. So you want to have a decent amount of lightning here. Lightning resist, and you don't have to kill her, you only have to bring her to 50% life, and then she flees. So this was the first battle with Piety, after the couple of times that we've seen her before where she got away right away, and this time you have to bring her down to 50%, and the next time you'll see her, it's actually for real, and that's the real battle. And we find Tolman, and he was tortured apparently, and he's dead, but he drops his bracelet. So we will get the bracelet, open a portal, go back to town, and we're supposed to talk to Clarissa here, which we will do. And you know, she's crying. She's really sad. And once she did all the blah blah, she will give us the sewer keys as some sort of reward for finding out that her friend is dead. Yay! So we'll take that. We will need it pretty much straight away. And then one more thing is that Maramoa gives us another reward, and in her case it is a skill gem, and there's a lot of them, so let's see what we haven't. Conversion trap works similar to we've seen. Was it dominating blow before? Yeah, I think so. Conversion trap also converts monsters, so you throw a trap, and if an enemy walks into the trap, it converts the enemy. So you don't have to kill the enemy, but the enemy just has to walk into the trap, which can be really, really cool because your enemies will basically turn on each other if you throw down a few traps, and you can just stay in the background and see them fight, and it's pretty cool. It does not affect unique monsters or players, so you can't use it for PvP, and you cannot use it against bosses, which would be kind of strange because some of them, you know, there's no other monster around, so you would just, there's nothing to fight if you convert them. So it makes sense. Explosive arrow, I think I don't know if we talked about it, but we've definitely seen it. It's where you fire an arrow and it gets stuck in the enemy, and then it explodes after a short while, and it deals fire damage, and also area of effect damage to any monsters that are around the target that you initially hit. Whoops, nope, didn't want to do that. Frenzy was just increased attack speed. We talked about this. Projectile weakness we've seen. Desecrate is a certain area of effect on the ground where you can use it if you're a summoner to summon your corpses, and you can also use it as a damage spell. So you put this area of effect under the monsters that you want to damage, and they will it will deal chaos damage over time to them. Freeze mine is, as it says, a mine that freezes. It's usually used in combination with another spell, and it's more about the crowd control than the damage, as far as I know. So you could just freeze all the enemies while you deal damage. I would personally think that it works well with a summoner, actually, because all of your zombies or your skeletons could attack, and you could at the same time make sure that they don't get damaged, they don't get killed, because everything is frozen. We talked about Leap Slam. I think it's just a movement. Well, it's mainly used as a movement skill to jump around. It can be used as a main attack as well. It's somewhat dangerous because you basically leap into the middle of a pack, and if you don't kill them straight away, then you know you're in the middle of them, so you might take quite a bit of damage. Yeah, we talked about smoke mine. What else? Tornado shot. Tornado shot is a bow skill that is actually used by quite a few people right now. It's a piercing shot, and when it reaches the target, there's like multiple projectiles first of all, and when it reaches a target, it kind of explodes and it sends out projectiles in all directions from that target. it's really effective right now. So if you're looking for a bow skill, I would suggest looking up a tornado shot build and going with that. It's really powerful. Herald of Ice is an aura, a damage aura with based on cold damage, where you deal additional cold damage that comes on top of your normal attack and spell damage. And if you shatter an enemy, so if you freeze the enemy, which happens quite regularly, it works really well with skills that already have an innate high critical strike chance. If you shatter an enemy, so you freeze it and then kill it while it's frozen, you deal AoE damage on top of the cold damage that is added. Riposte, I think this is pronounced, is another one of the trigger gems. I think we talked about Vengeance before. This one is similar. It's just uses both weapons. So this is for dual wielding. Yeah. So where I think Vengeance works with everything. Doesn't matter if you have two weapons, a weapon and a shield, or a two-hander. This one is specifically for dual wielding. And it's, again, a counterattack that is automatic. You don't have to click anything for it. Blink Arrow is also a new skill that was introduced with this upgrade. And it's for bow users, where you fire an arrow at a certain location and you can teleport to that location. That's basically it. Okay, so just have to see what I actually want to get here. Probably Herald of Ice. Yeah, nothing else makes any sense with what we're trying to do. We're not going with bows, we're not going with any sort of melee. We already have projectile weakness, so we don't have to worry about that. And we're not dual wielding, so the only thing that makes sense for us here is Herald of Ice. So let's get it.
General
Okay, and we get our next
Stay out of the shadows.
few tasks here. You can see that. You can already see a bit more about this act, you know, because they show you where to go for the missions. Assassinate General Gravicius. This will take a while until we get there. And Victario's Secrets is basically the next thing we do. Find 3 platinum busts in 3 different sewers. And yeah, that's the next thing that we'll do, but not in this episode. I think I'm really trying to get these episodes around 30 minutes, maybe a bit more, but the last episode was almost an hour, and it's not really good. Nobody wants to pay attention that long. So we'll end the episode here, and we'll go for the Victario's Secrets in the next episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Was a lot of talking, and next time we'll do a lot more fighting. Please give the video a like if you enjoyed the content, and subscribe to the channel if you want to support me, and I'll see you guys for the next one.